Y'all, it's your girl Sonia, and welcome back to She Say Sports. Today I have with me former NBA two-time champion, SWAC Hall of Famer, head coach of Mississippi Valley State men's basketball team, and Jackson, Mississippi legend, Mr. Lindsey Hunter. What's going on, Lindsey?
How you doing, Sanja? I'm doing fine. Thanks for the great introduction.
Hey, it's all true. It's all true. It's been a long time, my friend. It's been probably 20 years since I've seen you. Welcome back home.
Thanks. It's good to be back home. Of course, I've been in Detroit my entirety of my career living.
Right.
It's good to be back home. I'm happy to be back and to see familiar faces, be with my family, and of course, doing what I love to do, and that's coach basketball.
Absolutely. That's good. So we're going to get right into it, Lindsey. Back in the late 80s, you were a JPS phenom alongside James Robinson at Murrah High School. And again, happy birthday, James Robinson, a.k.a. Hollywood. His birthday was this week.
Yep. We all wished him a happy birthday the other night.
Yeah. So he is kicking it in Vegas. But it was amazing to see you guys play under legendary coach Jordan, who passed away in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like playing with that team, with those guys, and learning from one of the best coaches in the state at that time?
Well, experience for me was awesome because he really taught the game, and he really, he forced you to understand the bigger picture in basketball because we all were good players in our own right, but we sacrificed certain things for the betterment of our team. And we learned that at an early age, and we enjoyed winning. So regardless of how we felt about personal accolades and all that, we wanted to win. We were there as youngsters, and we didn't get to play, but we were on the sidelines watching, our team go 41-1 and win a state championship, and we wanted that feeling. And just being around that atmosphere and being around, guys that did sacrifice and guys that won, it made us want to fall in line, and it really taught us all valuable lessons, and it helped us along the way of our careers.
That is awesome, and your chemistry was truly amazing. Your team chemistry was amazing. I was able to see that, see you guys win that, championships and play in person. So it was an amazing thing to see. What is something? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and all that was built, because we practiced so hard and we worked so hard.
Right.
And I can truly say that in high school we enjoyed the games because our practices were, way more difficult than the games were.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. And you know what? And that makes sense because it played out on the court, and you guys were. So that does make a lot of sense. What is something you've learned from Coach Jordan that you are now teaching your players at Valley, or even while coaching in the league?
I think being one of the first influential coaches in my life, I learned a lot of my base fundamentals from Coach. And the biggest thing I always took away from what we did was he was big on people playing their roles. Like he was huge on that. And I always go into each season with my players, and I really want them to understand what your role is, and try to get guys to embrace it. If you can get a team that embraces their role, you can potentially have something special, and that's what my goal has always been.
That's good stuff. That's good. I read where you, of course, you've always been a JSU fan. You grew up going to football and basketball games with your dad. Right. You also wanted to play football, which was news to me. What was the catalyst that made you switch from football to basketball?
Well, it was God's timing because he made me so small when I was younger.
Right.
I was a little guy, but I loved football, and I was pretty good at it. Mississippi, in the South, football has always been king here, and you always see the young kids that are just monsters, and I was just the opposite. I was a little 5'10", 2 kids, and I just grew late. And I think by that happening, a lot of you get looked over, and I did. And then I started playing basketball, and it was a blessing to me, right? Because I fell in love with the sport, and it's been great to me ever since then.
So basketball was not your first love?
Absolutely not. I absolutely love football. I mean, I was a football fanatic.
Who was your favorite team, professional-wise?
49ers.
That was my dad. Well, yeah, when Jerry Rice, that was my dad's favorite.
Right.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, I never knew that. I'm like, really? Wow. But that, I'm thankful things played out the way they did. So,
absolutely.
You never know what might have happened had you, just kept trying to push for football. But I'm glad you switched over. That is great. Well, you didn't start at Jackson State your freshman year, but at Alcorn, and you played for another legendary coach, Coach Whitten.
Right.
After he left Alcorn, you transferred to Jackson State and played for Coach Stoglin.
Yep.
You've been deemed as one of the greatest champions to come from JSU and are among the top 10 athletes to play for JSU, along with Walter Payton, Jackie Slater, and Dennis Oil Can Boyd. So that's a great list to be a part of, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I grew up admiring all of those guys you just named.
It's amazing.
For me to be mentioned amongst guys that I absolutely idolize is, that's a blessing within itself.
It really is. I mean, I'm just like, I'm thinking about that because, we were at those games and you watched them and then you're in their group. So that's awesome. That is awesome. In 92, the Tigers were invited to the Rainbow Classic and played against Kansas Jayhawks. At that time, JSU was 3-6, and you guys almost knocked off the Jayhawks. And, the odds were definitely not in your favor. But that was amazing in itself, but it definitely would not have happened without you. You broke your own school record for three-pointers, and you had 40-plus points in that game. Although you didn't win, the Tigers gave the Jayhawks a run for their money. What statement or message were you sending not only to the Jayhawks, but the basketball world during that game regarding Jackson State?
Well, as a team, we felt like there wasn't a team in the country that we couldn't compete with. And we knew, we had the pieces, bigs, the guards, and we were never intimidated by anybody we played. And even in that season, we beat Tulane, who I think they were ranked in the top 20 that year.
Wow.
So we were already feeling like, hey, we have a special team. We have the chemistry, we have the bond, we had the coach, we had everything in place for us to really do something special. And when we played Kansas, we didn't really, we didn't care the fact that they were number 2 in the country. We were thinking about playing. We wanted to beat them so we could play Michigan. And so I think that surprised them in a way because, there was no fear amongst us. We went out and we competed and, had them on the ropes. If a couple of things happen our way, we win that game. So it was a great experience for us, and it really forced our season to be something special because that year we did a lot of things that were special to us and to the school, and it was an amazing ride.
That's amazing, and especially regardless of your record, you all didn't even look at that. You looked at the fact like we can do this. We beat Tulane, and
right.
We got all the pieces. So that would have been amazing. It was amazing just getting there, and then, like you said, putting them on the ropes. They were not expecting that at all. They thought it was just a little country school from Mississippi.
Right.
And they were not expecting that. But speaking of Michigan, Coach Stockton told a story about when you made the all-tournament team and the Fab Five were there. You mentioned Michigan earlier.
Right.
And they asked you a question, would you like to play with the Fab Five? And you said yes if they were at JSU. I love that. And I don't want to speculate. So what was going through your head when you answered that in a matter-of-fact way to them?
Because you think about, and you know my story, I was raised in an HBCU environment. That to me, it was the same as, these kids you see being raised around North Carolina or being raised around Duke.
Right.
I was, enamored with playing at HBCU. I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. I loved going to the football games. I loved going to the basketball games. I knew the names of all the athletes on all the other teams as well as our team, and it was special to me,
Yeah. And, I mean, it's just, I'm sure they thought you were going to say something like, oh, I would love to play with them. But you was like, yeah, if they were at Jackson State. And
right.
that's because I love that, because you show pride not only from where you were, but what school you went to. And, it's amazing how every time I tell people I'm from Mississippi, it's a look of shock. Sometimes they come with the jokes. However, some truly amazing people out of this state. Actually, y'all are listening to two of Mississippi's finest right now. So don't get it twisted, because, in entertainment, sports, whatever, literary, it's a lot of people come from Mississippi. So I'm glad that you showed them that, it doesn't matter where you're from, and especially if it's a small school, there's still major talent regardless.
Oh, absolutely. And I even stress that today, as a recruiting tool. A lot of times people get caught up in, trying to go bigger. Bigger's better. But then if you look around the NBA, of course you do have the guys that, you have the guys that come from North Carolina and all that.
Right.
But a lot of our stars, like Steph Curry and T.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard, and those guys didn't go to, those guys didn't go to the big time programs, and look where they are. So, kids can see that, kids can understand that, because it's not a lot of times about where you go, it's what you do where you at, and if you can go somewhere and be developed and highlight what you do, and you'll give yourself an opportunity to play pro ball if that's your desire, or to have a career after this. That's what it's about.
Then even think about it. Back in the 90s, social media was not out, the internet, none of that. And they're thinking, somebody came and saw you. Scouts came and saw you.
Absolutely.
And so it can happen. So I totally agree. It's what you do with it, not necessarily where you are. It's how you implement, play the game, and do what you need to do to, be the best. So I totally agree. Moving on to your NBA career. You were drafted the 10th pick in the first round to the Detroit Pistons. I remember watching that draft at my grandma's house, and we were all just, happy and stuff. You went in the first round. But my happiness stopped there, because I'm a Bulls fan, and I don't like the Pistons. So I mean, you finally got to the real team later on in your career. But
hey, they were winning everything then, so.
I know, right? We were so proud. We were so proud of you. And you got to play with two legendary Pistons, Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars.
Yep.
How was it working and learning from them for you?
Well, being a small guard, I always looked up to those guys, because I've watched them, win championships, and it was surreal being, I got to go up and work out with them, and I was just, I was blown away. And,
right.
And I was even more blown away from the respect they showed me,
Cool.
and I was just trying to take it all in and learn everything I could. And it was like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And I tell guys all the time, young players, man, when you can be around pros and you can just take it all in, and try to learn as much as you can. And that's what I respect about a lot of the younger guys that I've got to coach, that I've got to work with, is they respect the fact that you've been where they're trying to go, you've done things that they're trying to do, and grow from it. And that's the whole key, is to try to grow from the situations you've been put in.
That's true. And, you mentioned, you worked really hard. You worked hard to get to the league. And I remember people saying you took a semester off just to work on your craft. Was that true?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me about that journey. Tell me about that.
Well, when the season ended for me at Jackson State, I just, I was in the time I was trying to decide what agent to go with, and all that stuff. So we all talked about it, and even Coach Stockman, they were like, look, you need to just, withdraw from school now and go find out where you want to be so you can just go train. And that's what I did. I went up to Chicago. I was with the agent, the late Henry Thomas, who had Tim Hardaway, he had Dwayne Wade, he had Chris Bosh, really prominent, black agent. And I went up there and I worked out in Chicago. I actually worked out with Michael Jordan's trainer before the draft and all that. Mm-hmm. And it really helped me. It got me, I got a taste of the NBA game. I got a taste of the NBA workout and got to work out with some NBA players. And it really gave me an edge. When I went to pre-draft camp, I had already, pretty much did everything that they were doing. So it really, really helped me, That's
good. Well, it paid off because not only did you make it to the league, you got 2 rings to show for it. From 2 different teams. I mean, did you ever dream you would win a championship, let alone 2?
No, and as a kid, you always have those stories where you're in the backyard and you're dribbling the ball up and you pretending you're playing for the championship and all that stuff. And man, I got to experience it, and I just remember in that moment when I was out on the court and I had the ball in my hand as the clock was running out. And I was thinking about all the times that I said, hey, Lindsey Hunter's with the ball, 2 seconds, 1 second game,
Oh, my God. That's
and it actually came true, and I got to experience it, and it was amazing. It was really amazing. And especially, I won one with the Lakers, and then I came back and won one with the Pistons. And I think because I was drafted by the Pistons, the history and the people, and it was just that much more special. And the team that we had a bunch of guys who, people had given up on or were traded or, forgotten, and ended up being one of the greatest defensive teams ever,
Yes, it was. And you're right, that made it much sweeter because they were kind of like misfits to the world, like putting y'all together. And then not only that, that was your home, Detroit.
Right,
so,
right.
That is so cool. I mean, wow. Imagination and preparation takes you where you need to go. And you saw yourself doing it years ago. So that's an amazing thing. You mentioned the Lakers, and when Kobe passed away, I actually tried to get in touch with you, interview you, because I knew that was your teammate, and his death completely shocked the world. So I can't even imagine how his former teammates and friends felt. Where were you when you found out about his passing, and what were your first thoughts?
We were in Texas. Actually, we were getting ready to play Prairie View, and my mom had called me that morning. She asked me a question about, have you heard that Kobe Bryant, was in a helicopter crash? And I was like, Mom, I don't know what you're talking about, and I started looking on the internet after she said that to me, and I saw something there, but it wasn't much. And an hour later, people started calling me. I started getting text messages. I started seeing stuff pop on the internet, and it didn't feel real. It didn't feel real. I couldn't really believe it. I was like, I don't believe it. I'm like, got to be a mistake or something. But it was really just a gut wrenching, traumatic feeling to especially seeing what he was doing. After his retirement, he was really impacting women's basketball, and man, I love the fact that he was so involved in his girls' lives, man. A lot of guys you hear always going, "Yeah, I gotta have me a boy," With Kobe, I think he coined the term "girl dad," and I have a daughter, so that meant a lot to me, because we so much get influenced and engulfed in what boys are doing, and following the boys around to play basketball and all that, and the girls can get lost in that sometimes. And I think he was really impacting that aspect of basketball and the world, and I think he was just on the cusp of doing even bigger things, because I really felt like the direction he was going in, and watching the impact he had, and he was going to do something with the WNBA. I just really felt like that. He was just on the cusp of doing just great things in the world of women's basketball, and he just had such an influence. Just his mindset, his attitude, his work ethic was legendary. I got to experience it. I got to know him. And anytime things like that happen, man, your heart just goes out to his family, and your heart goes out to the millions of people that he influenced, because a lot of these NBA players you see now, they were pupils of Kobe. A lot of them would go in the summer and work out with Kobe. And he was just that. I mean, he just embodied so much about his approach to the sport, his mental mindset, his toughness, his love for the game, his willingness to just, do whatever it took for him to feel like he was prepared,
Right.
I love that about him.
I've been a huge Michael Jordan fan since I was 12 years old. So when Kobe came around, everybody was like he was better than Mike, and I'm like, I was pissed, and I was like, he's doing everything like Mike, and I was angry about it. So as I grew, older and stuff, and I would see him, I gave him his respect. However, I never seen him as one of my favorite players.
Right.
Well, when the year he retired, I cried, because I knew that was the end of an era. Right. Basketball that we would never see again. Everybody, most of the people, our age that we grew up with watching ball, they're retired or they're coaches, and I cried, and I couldn't believe it, because I was not a fan. However, I was already following Vanessa on Instagram, so I started following him, and I fell in love with the man that he was with his family.
Exactly.
I fell in love with the way he adored his girls. And you're right. He was on a cusp of something with the WNBA because of Gigi. And he was going to make sure that the doors opened not only for her, but other girls who wanted to be WNBA stars. And he was going to make sure they got the money. I just saw all of that happening.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it was taken away. And it seems so unfair.
Right.
So unfair.
Right.
And you did an interview after he passed, and you said, if you love basketball, a part of you has been lost. Kobe was a prime example of how to build a perfect basketball player: work ethic unmatched, mentality unflappable, and drive unmatched. What a perfect way to describe him as a player. What was he like as a friend? Because he was very disciplined with his sporting, with his game. What was he like as a friend?
He was once it's like anything else. You had to gain his respect. Gotcha. And I think after I gained his respect, I became his veteran. And I'll never forget, every time I would see him, when we would play against him, he would call me his veteran. And I always tell this story because I guys that wanted to play like Kobe or be like Kobe, I would always ask them, well, how much do you think Kobe worked out? What do you think? And I remember when I was with the Bulls, and I would always get to the arena early, and I was coming in really early, and the lights weren't even on in the arena. I think it was a few back lights were on, but not the main lights. And I heard the ball bouncing. Normally I would go around the back, go to the locker rooms, but I heard the ball bounce. I was like, let me walk around and see who is this on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Kobe in a full sweat. Wow. I'm looking like, what is this guy doing out here? And I said, what are you doing, man? He was like, called me his vet. I'm getting ready. I was like, okay. And I went in the locker room, and one of our coaches was in there, Pete Myers. I told Pete, I said, man, guess who out there on the floor in a full sweat? Who? I said, Kobe. I said, really? He's like, yeah. So he walked out there. He's like, man, he's going to kill us tonight.
What, did he kill y'all?
Yeah, like 20 in the first quarter.
Yeah, he was ready. But, it's amazing how even you kind of have that same drive. When you took off that semester to do what you did, apparently your work ethic was, on that level or some sort of, on that level because you went to the office early that day.
Right. And I tell young guys even to this day, I said, athletes, your mindset just is different as an athlete, especially if you want to separate yourself to be one of the best. And a lot of times, if you're training and you're just training like everybody else, you're going to be like everybody else.
Right.
I've never heard any successful athlete say, oh, I just did what everybody else did. I've never heard nobody say that. It was always, you hear the stories about how a guy just did insanely crazy workouts, how he stayed in the gym all summer, or, those are the guys that you see make it to the next level, and I always took that to heart, and to even kids today, I tell them, hey, everybody plays. Everybody can play basketball, but
not me.
Yeah. But to truly want to excel at it, you have to really fall in love with the game itself and not what the game can give you.
It's true. That is true. And, speaking of going to the next level, when you retired from the league as a player, you started working for the league in another capacity as coach. You actually was assistant coach with the Phoenix Suns, and, a few months later you became the interim head coach for a few months.
Right.
Was that always your plan to go into coaching after you left the game?
I always, I guess they always said I was coaching when I was playing, so it was always, that part of me that loved teaching the game. I loved helping players get better. I loved every aspect of that, and that's the thing that it brought out of me. And man, I loved coaching. I loved, I couldn't do what I could do on the court, but I still can, give my mind and my heart and my soul to the game, and that's what I want to continue to do, until it's time for me to sit down and watch the next, generation, and that's what it's about: passing the knowledge, passing things to the next generation, and helping them, make the game better.
That's true, and. You just mentioned you couldn't play, and I was going to ask you, was it hard coaching the players and not being able to get out there and play, even though you're seeing it in your head what to do, how you would do this, and was that hard for you at the beginning?
No, because when I played 17 years, and that's unheard of for guys my size. I got everything out.
That's good.
I did everything I could do. I was totally spent, and I knew it. And I was happy about it. I knew that I had given every ounce of what I had to the game that I love.
I like that. You had a peace about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a good thing. That's wow. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So I think even Kobe, he had a peace about it. He was ready to go, be done. And I'm glad he spent those last 4 years of his life, like spending a whole lot of time with his family. That
Right.
Even in his death, God is good because with that, he allowed him to do other things and, like I said, be with his family. So that's a beautiful thing.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, you have come full circle. You're back to the six. You're back to SWAC. How has it been bringing your experience and knowledge to your players just like coaches Jordan, Witten, and Stoglin instilled in you at that early age, at such an early age?
It's been fun. It's been a joy for me I feel like I'm giving back to the place that gave so much to me.
Yes.
And that means a lot to me. I really want not only Mississippi Valley, but the SWAC to, be the best that it can be. And I think there are a lot of new coaches that have come into the conference that is raising our level coach-wise, and that's a joy to see. I've talked to a lot of the guys, and we have a lot of really good coaches that are coming into this league, and that's fun to see, and it's really puts a smile on my face because we are getting quality players. We're getting players that you would see go elsewhere, starting to come back and play at HBCUs, and that really is a joy.
It really is, and I see, your boy Mo Williams, is with the SWAC.
Right.
I love that. It excites me because I'm like, like we talked about earlier, so many kids don't think they'll get, acknowledged, or I'm like, trust me, things can happen for you at these smaller institutions, and not only things can happen, but being at the SWAC, HBCU, but I'll just use SWAC because that's where I came from.
Right.
It is nothing like the love of SWAC love. We are a family through and through. And homecoming, that's why it's so special for us because, we genuinely love each other. And I have relationships with people that has lasted. I'm going to Nashville in a couple of days, well, tomorrow actually, to be with one of my very best friends. We met the first day of choir camp and, for her birthday. I mean, it's just, these people they mean everything to me. So I pray, like kids, just give HBCUs a chance. Not saying you have to go, but at least go on a tour. Don't just
Absolutely.
Go to Power 5 schools and thinking, this is it. Just give it a chance. So yeah, but you see yourself in some of your players, except Caleb, your son, because I know you see yourself in him.
I do. And getting to recruit this year, I really was looking for guys with certain characteristics, and I found a lot of guys that, just talking to them and their families that had the characteristics that I was looking for. And that's what you look for. You look for guys with the hunger, the ability to persevere through tough times, and I think we've been able to put together a group that has a lot of those characteristics, and that's a great thing. And they're good people, and we've gotten some guys that from Mississippi that was willing to take a chance on me, and that made me feel really good. So I hopefully we get to play this season. I'm praying we do. But regardless, when we do get to, we'll have a special group to put out in front of our fans.
That's good. Speaking of Caleb, he was named SWAC Freshman of the Year. Stunned like his daddy, and I love that because you pretty much have been Caleb's coach his entire life, but now on another level because it's it's collegiate. do you push him harder than the other players because he's your son and because you know what he's capable of?
I wouldn't say I push him harder, because I try to push all my guys.
Gotcha. Okay.
There are certain things I expect of him, because this is, you've grown up doing this your entire life. I even once said to him, son, this is what you were born to do.
Love it.
So he's such a special kid, and we have such a wonderful bond. He had a lot of other options to go to school and play at other schools, and big time schools that I just thank God he chose to come with Dad, and that's
so cool.
It made me feel like, hey man, I'm doing something right,
Yeah.
and I love the kid. He not just as a basketball player, but as a person. Caleb is a special young man, and
Wow.
I'm more proud of the person he's becoming and the young man he's becoming more so than the basketball player, and that's what makes me smile more so than anything. He's always been a talented kid basketball wise, but watching the young man he's become, it really makes my heart feel good.
That's a good thing. Well, that says a lot about the parents. So, congratulations, good job. Because
thank you.
They can't. They can't be what they don't see,
right.
And they're taught. So you guys have done a great job. And I know your family. I know where you came from, and
right.
Beautiful family. So you're just doing what what they showed you. So
absolutely.
That's a great testament to even be able to say that about your child. So that's beautiful. As you mentioned, about possibly having season, COVID-19 is still running rapid in our country. However, I listened to SWAC Commissioner McKellen last week on a show, and, like you said, at this time we're still having a season. Hopefully nothing changes. However, have you been able to recruit and get ready for the season despite the pandemic?
Well, recruiting-wise, we have been able to, the thing that is frustrating for us as coaches and players, it's been tough to try to get into gyms because of all the procedures and protocols have to be met, and and I understand that, and I'll never, try to cross that line. I want things to be right, and I want my kids to be safe.
Right.
So whatever has to happen, and we have to, grin and bear it and do the right things, by our kids. And I know they're kids, and they get frustrated because, Coach, when are we going to do this? When are we going to, like, hey, guys, we have to take this thing serious. Like,
right.
I don't want anything to happen to any one of you guys. I made promises to your parents, and I'm going to, foresee those promises through.
Absolutely.
And it's been tough, but hey, we have to do what we have to do it, and hopefully, whenever we get past this thing and things can get back to normal, and then we'll be, we'll be happy again and feel this pressure and this stress levels raised from us.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Well, I'm not going to even get into that, but I'm praying and hoping things, like you said, get lifted and get better really, really soon, because it's just, I don't want this to be my normalcy.
Right,
and,
right.
I'm ready to get back to life. It's just. I never would have thought in a million years that we would be going through this. I had never. But
right.
Hey, it is what it is, and
right.
we have to just, like you said, just follow the rules and do what we need to do to stay safe. Lindsey, as you know, our country is not only dealing with COVID-19, but racial unrest as well.
Right.
Killings of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd has sparked protests across the country, including the sports world. Last week, NBA teams such as the Lakers and the Clippers would not play due to the shooting of Jacob Blake, who was shot 7 times in the back by a cop and now is paralyzed from the waist down. I've been reading articles and posts of fans that are saying things like athletes need to stick with sports and stay out of politics. First of all, it's not politics. It's being a human.
Right.
And, it's just, I don't understand the psyche of somebody who actually thinks that it's okay for a cop to shoot an unarmed man who's doing nothing in front of his children. That is, it's baffling. I can't even imagine. But what are your thoughts when you hear fans trash athletes for speaking against systematic racism?
Well, my thing is this. I'm always. I when I was in Detroit for all those years, I mentored hundreds of young men and young women also. And when I see things like that happen, I see the kids that I've mentored. I see my son. I see all those things. And for people to say, we shouldn't. And it goes both ways, because I hear people say, "Oh, athletes aren't doing enough," or athletes, you shouldn't be involved in politics. And I laugh and I say to a lot of people, I said, one thing, I'm always going to fight for my people. I'm always going to fight for the betterment of opportunities for us, for equality, fight against systemic racism. All of that stuff needs to be changed. And so we can't put athletes, in a box and say, "Oh, this is what you need to do," or "You didn't do enough."
Right.
As I've told a lot of people this, because they were like, how can NBA go back and play? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? They are affecting change. They are making things happen. They've made owners open up, voting booths in every arena, or every NBA arena in the country. There's already a bill in action in Wisconsin right now, because of what they did.
That's right.
So, and we can't, even, and I'm saying this as black people in general, it's not our responsibility to solve the problem of racism. It's not, because we didn't create it.
Right.
So you can't ask us to give people in power, the people that are doing these things, answer to fix it. No, just stop it.
Period.
And so it bothers me when I hear my people criticize athletes one way or the other. Oh, you need to stay out of it, or you're not doing enough. Because we don't broadcast what we do doesn't mean we're not doing anything.
Amen.
I was always big on, I don't want publicity for what I'm doing, because I'm doing it because that's what I want to do. That's in my heart.
Right.
And it always bothers me. I'm like, people criticize LeBron James. I'm like, for God's sake, he built a school. He's putting kids in college.
Period.
And it really, really bothers me. Or people don't know what, Kyrie Irving is doing a ton of things in the community. And a lot of these younger guys are very active in the community. So it's tough to deal with, but you speak your piece and you move on, and you try to do the best you can to change things. And it's like me coming back home. I'm with my foundation. I want to build a community center. I think it's needed. Not only for athletics, but for performing arts, for kids to have a place to go after school to do their homework, to have access to computers, to get counseling for mental health. I even want to have a part where we have some sort of counseling for cancer patients, because a lot of things in our communities we don't have access to.
Right.
And so that's my dream, and that's what I came home to work on.
That is good stuff. And I'm going to get your. I want you to tell your foundation information at the end of the show. I have got one more thing to ask you. But you're absolutely right. It's about, I'm like you. You can't please people. It's like either I'm not doing enough, or I'm doing too much, or
right.
if I don't tell you everything, because, everybody's been on Michael Jordan for years. As a matter of fact, somebody was like, he's still not saying something. Lies. He was one of the coaches. He was one of the owners who talked to and was like, what do y'all need from us? This was last week. What do you need from the owners? So, stop it with the he's not doing anything or this. Everybody doesn't have to tell you. I mean, why do I have to put everything on Instagram or social media so you can know that I'm working? No. Some people are private, and that's okay.
Right.
So it's just, I'm thankful that you came home to, help our community. And, it's, players like you and different athletes are coming home to do different stuff. And I love that, because you could have stayed in Detroit and you were doing things there. But you could have never, you didn't have to come back here. You could have got a school, coach for a school there or somewhere else. So we're very thankful. We appreciate it.
I appreciate
the legacy? You're welcome. What is the legacy you would like to leave, Lindsey?
And
you pretty much said it.
Right. So I just want people to know, what I stood for, and when they hear my name, to know that he was a country boy that made his way to the big city, that came home, that cared about people, that cared about kids that were like him, that came from a small town, that probably never got to see a professional athlete as a kid, But I want those things to change because, if kids can see and touch and feel and talk to and understand, and it gives them that hope and that belief that, hey, he came from here and he did it, and so can I.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tell the listeners about your foundation and how they can get in contact with you regarding that.
Yeah, it's the LT&C Hunter Foundation. You can look us up. It'll give you all the information. We're working on our website as we speak, but you still can look it up. And we're on. It's on Facebook as well as the other. What is the other social? I just started social media,
Twitter,
so I'm not really good at Twitter. Yeah, all that.
Okay.
So we're all over that, and so you can look us up. And if you want to donate. We'll be here, and we'll be working on, finding a location to start doing something special, and hopefully it'll touch some lives and help a lot of people.
Please definitely keep me abreast of everything. I would like to, help out in any way I can.
Absolutely.
And also, guys, you can follow me on She Say Sports on Facebook. She Say Sports 23 on Instagram. And, well, that's my show for today. This time, this is Sanja with She Say Sports, and I'll see you on the radio.